Welcome to High Notes, conversations on the art and business of voice. High Notes. Make sure you never miss a video on our channel by pressing that subscribe button, and if you like this episode, please do give it a like and leave us a comment below. Now, let's meet this month's guest. In this Women in Games special, we sit down with Natalie Edwards, talent agent and head of Voiceover division at Excellent Talent, based here in the UK. Natalie talks to us about her career and her extensive work with games in particular. We also discuss important issues, including representation and diversity in the industry, as well as what talent agents look for when signing new VO artists. So settle in and let's hit those high notes with Natalie Edwards. Find out more about this episode by clicking on the description below. We're chatting to VO agent Natalie Edwards on the podcast today. Natalie is head agent at Excellent Talent. Disclaimer, Excellent is my UK agent and represents both myself and my children. We're going to talk to Natalie about her work and also explore the role of video games as well. So welcome, Natalie.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us on this lovely grey day. Let's just get straight into it. Can you give me a brief potted history of your career and how you got into the role as a VO agent?
Yeah, sure. So I actually trained in musical theatre because I always loved musical theatre growing up. So that's why I was one of those, always wanted to be on the stage. And then I quickly realised throughout my degree that I didn't want to do that anymore. So it wasn't quite for me, but I wanted to be in the creative field in one way or another. It was one of those stages where, how do you do that? What do I do? And I thought either casting or agenting, but I was specifically looking at the musical theatre industry. And then I did a brief season abroad in Cyprus where I was an entertainment coordinator. So that was just a bit of a fun jolly, but it gave me a bit of insight into managing talent, tiny bit. It was a bit more fun than that, more having fun than working. And then the company that hired me for that actually took me on in their offices as a logistics manager. So I arranged all the travel and things for their performers. And they had a sister company that was a musical theatre agency. And I was a bit unsure if that was quite right for me. And yeah, off the back of that, I left that job. And then I knew that I wanted to go into agenting, and I was applying for jobs left, right and centre, but none of them were agent jobs. And then all of a sudden, something popped up on, I think it was Indeed or LinkedIn, I can't remember, Excellent Talent looking for a voiceover agent. And I didn't really have much experience with voiceover. My husband was a voice artist, so I knew a little bit, but I thought, why not at this point? And then very luckily, 6 years ago in March, John and Pete offered me the role, and yeah, I've been here ever since.
Oh, I think I'm finding out a little bit more about you with that kind of entry into the industry, with the whole kind of Cyprus thing going on. So I'll pick your brains in the pub about that. So you've been in the game now for 6 years. Can you share some insights into what you look for when signing new voiceover talent? Because I know that that's what everybody wants to know, right? It's the first thing they want to know. So can you share what you're looking for kind of currently and what you look for when you sign someone new?
I think what we're looking for currently and in general, I think it kind of goes part and parcel because it changes all the time. So I suppose it depends on the trends that you're hearing in the industry. There's obviously so many elements to the voice industry. So if we're looking for a commercial voice, we're looking for something that's a bit more fun and comedic, definitely has great comedy timing. So I'm hearing a lot of that on commercials at the moment. But obviously we want someone to be versatile, to do a bit of both. But that is definitely the most popular style that I'm hearing. And then in terms of like gaming and characterful work and animation, and we just want to hear something that really stands out, I suppose, that stands out amongst the crowd. A real versatility in character voices, but also a great actor. Like, that's really important. I know that casting directors are really honing in on that nowadays. It's not just about the voices you can do, it's how you connect with the scripts and things like that. So I suppose in general, whether you're just reading a script or if you're actually involved and invested, we can really hear that element to it. So I think that's probably in general what we would be looking for. We're very focused on creating a diverse roster as well. So diversity is massive when we're keeping an eye out on new voices in the world. Yeah.
Well, we'll pick up on diversity a bit later, but there was so much in there that I thought of to ask you. So picking up on what you said about the need to be a good actor, here at Brava, we firmly believe, of course, that high quality training is imperative to cut it in this business, right? I suppose I'm answering the question, but how important do you think formal training is for aspiring voice actors? And that can be drama school or other modes of training, such as the stuff that we offer at Brava.
Drama school specifically, I know that obviously it's great when people have that and they go through it, and it's stuff that people aspire to do. I aspired to go into musical theatre training, and I don't regret anything, but I don't think it would have led me into becoming a voice actor necessarily. I don't think it's needed for that area of the creative industry, but I do think that there are skills there that would definitely apply. Training, so finding workshops and training programs that are focused one-to-one, specifically for voice acting, I think is hugely important, because otherwise, how are you going to know if you're listening to yourself all the time? You'd rather have someone giving you some expertise into the industry. They're going to be learning that all the time. So you want to learn off the back of that. And that's how, when your knowledge is wider, your opportunities are going to be much bigger. So I think just training in general in voice acting is incredibly important, whether you're doing it as an independent voice artist or if you're looking for an agent to work with as well.
We know that a day of a VO often is submitting auditions. So let's have a quick chat about that. For you, what are some of the common mistakes that new VOs make during auditions, and how can they be avoided?
I think probably the biggest mistake is, touching on what I said before, is just reading the script. And that sounds so vague, but if you just read the words, then there's not going to be any kind of connection to it. And we want to hear that you are really embracing the role, whether it's a commercial or whether it's an actual character for an animation or a game or an audiobook. We want to hear that you've actually paid attention to the script and the brief. We can hear it within seconds. So I think that the more work you do on that audition, the more background work you do, the better.
And I talk so much about that in all of our training, and all of our other master coaches do too. And when you've worked in the commercial sector for a long time, I have to explain often that if you've got 25 demos on your website, it's highly unlikely that a client is going to spend time listening to all of them. And we do know within the first 3 seconds, we listen to a demo within 3 seconds. If it's not right, we'll switch it off. So great that you brought that up. Talking about demos, what are you listening out for in voiceover demos? Is there any kind of factors that you think, they've got to have that? You know, for example, do they have to be professionally produced? I know the answer to that, but just talk us through what you're listening out for.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, the professionally produced thing, it is very important. So we want to hear that first and foremost. You can hear it a mile off. Some people are absolute pros and can do it, and it sounds fantastic. But yeah, I would highly recommend having it professionally produced, because one, you're working with somebody else as well, and that helps, again, like what I said before, create something that you're not just listening to your own voice. Somebody else is giving you that feedback. Yeah, professionally produced demos are highly recommended. A variety in reads. Does everything sound the same? If it does, then change it, because otherwise we're just not getting enough from you, I would say. And yeah, the content itself, again, variety in the content that you are recording is really important, because we want to hear how versatile you can be. Yeah, I think those are probably the top 3 points.
In your day-to-day work at Excellent, do you cast more via auditions or direct from demo reels these days?
It totally depends on what the brief is. Gaming and animation is very audition-based. There are the odd castings that come in, maybe if they've got a tight deadline, they just say, we'll do a real casting, a demo casting, and that's fine. But in terms of things like corporate commercial, something less character-based, they're usually done via reels and then an Audition is requested if they want like a short list, maybe. But it's very varied. Yeah, I would say it was probably about 50-50.
Your day-to-day work obviously spans all genres of VO, but talk to me about gaming. This is a Women in Games special, so I want to spend just a little bit of time on that. What is the current state of play in VO for games? Big question, I know, but what are you noticing about the gaming industry and VO right now?
Melissa, you may already know, but gaming is actually probably our biggest. We work with games all the time. It's like the most we do at our job at the moment, which is amazing. We're very happy about that. It's all very exciting, all the hype around it. So this is a perfect subject, really. We get so many varied castings. I would say a lot of it is male.
Oh,
but we do get a mixture. But I would say the roles that we get for castings are mostly male. But that's probably the only thing I could really pull out of it. But yeah, that really stands out in my brain. Which
okay,
isn't great for women in games. But
no, it's not. But at least, you know, if that's the state of play, then it needs to be talked about. And I mean, I do a lot of work behind the scenes about diversity. We'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, particularly, that I think it's really valuable to talk in confidence with each other about what's really going on, rather than maybe just do tick boxing, which does happen a lot, I think. As you know, I've talked to you about it. And why do you think that is? Why are majority of males still being cast in lead roles?
It's probably got a huge part to play in the storytelling. It's in the script writing, which obviously I don't see much of. I kind of, we facilitate the casting and things like that. So I suppose it's just down to the themes and the stories that are coming out into the world with the game side of things. But yeah, we often have female voice artists. So what's happening with, I want to do more games and things like that. And you're like, yeah, we're getting all the castings, but the roles aren't there at the moment.
It's so interesting. So interesting. Yeah. I already know a number of people I'm going to be talking to about this behind the scenes, both here and in the US. But, it's good that we talk about it, and maybe that's how change can happen. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for sharing that.
You kind of see it, I suppose, with my job, you just kind of get on with it. And that you don't really think about these things until we have situations like this where you can actually talk about it openly. But I suppose when you're seeing games announcements, so releases are happening and people are announcing their involvement, a lot of it is male. Like I do see a lot of male involvement of lead roles, bit roles, NPC. Yeah, definitely that's where it stands out if I was to think about it.
I feel like, and I need to do more research on this, but I feel like there was a time period sort of 3 or 4 years ago where there was a lot of talk about diversity and people were setting out plans. And this is across the media industry, by the way, not just in VO. And without a shadow of a doubt, a lot of ambassadors were appointed and heads of diversity departments, and, and now a lot of them have gone across the media industry. So I myself am a Women in Games ambassador. So this is a really important conversation for us to have. And I will absolutely be bringing this up with more and more figureheads in the industry behind the scenes so that we can talk openly about it. So I really appreciate that. I was just about to ask you what the state of play is for diversity. Obviously, we've just talked a bit about gender, but any other areas of diversity that you're seeing being represented in the casting that you're doing? I know here at Brava, we struggle to cast British Asians a lot. We can very rarely find them, but that's just one tiny area. So what's your experience of that?
That specific casting had a very interesting experience with that. But again, that could be a conversation in the pub quite recently. So yeah, that's funny that you should say that. But in general, I just think what I'm seeing is, yes, I know that those kind of castings are really hard to come by for some reason, as they're so popular, especially the Asian casting is so popular in gaming. So that's something we're always looking for, by the way, if anybody wants to know.
There you go, get in there.
Get in there.
Get in there now. This is proving to be an illuminating conversation already. We need to take it off to the pub straight away.
So I think people are being more cautious of not casting the wrong ethnicity, or so like a British person doing an Asian accent kind of thing. We definitely would avoid that at all costs as an agency. And I think casting directors and developers are also paying attention to this a lot more nowadays as well. I have seen a couple of things slip through the net where maybe it has been an American accented role, and then the character has been revealed and the artwork's been revealed at a later date.
I know exactly what you're referring to. Yes.
So that's always been a bit tricky to navigate because, especially on social media, as we know, the immediate receiver of the flack is going to be the person who is cast in the role. And what everybody needs to remember is that we don't always get to see that artwork because of NDAs and things like that. And that's something really important to know, as social media can be brutal.
Can be. A lot of talent that we work with are no longer on social media. And one thing I have noticed, if I'm going to be brutally honest, is that most of us are lurkers. Very few of us actually talk a lot on social media, and the ones that talk a lot are usually the ones that are less busy, and it becomes noise. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about that. But you bring up a really valid point there, that so often we think about the rights of VOs. Of course we do. That's my job, is to support our talent as much as possible. But what support is there for casting directors? You know, if something like that should happen to someone, what support do they have? Are you part of a union?
Well, we're part of the PMA, which is obviously generally for theatre and voice agents alike, but a lot of that is focused on theatre. But obviously, we're very much, it's such a wide net. They're so supportive. The PMA is brilliant. We've been very lucky to be a part of them for a couple of years, so we're very happy with that. But I know that there is more talks of there being something voiceover specific, as I have been talking over probably since I started. There's been a round table of voice agents, of the leading voice agents in the UK, and they are so brilliant at working towards better rates and things like that, working with equity, working with Spotlight. So they're working really hard, and I know that there's definitely talks of something being a bit more voiceover specific. So hopefully that'll be in play quite soon.
What advice would you give to someone who is trying to break into the voiceover industry? Obviously, there are lots of different approaches when someone says they're new. I personally think it's fantastic that more and more people want to become voice actors. People say the market is saturated. Well, that's a great thing. And in order to cut it, I think you have to have talent and determination and grit and all of that stuff. But why not you? That's what I always say. What advice would you have to those people trying to cut it today?
Be prepared. The best thing you could possibly do is research, prepare, train, make connections with your peers. You'll find yourself in an amazing community of people who are actually just really willing to help. And if you think you can get a voice reel done and that's going to be it, then you are severely wrong. It's that you can see the experience from an email. Like, that it's so simple. Yes, obviously there are a lot of things out there that cost a lot of money, but that's why I'm saying connect with your peers in the industry, because you'll end up finding some really good little nuggets out there. If you don't quite have the resources to be spending money on big expensive workshops, really connect with those around you, because there's a lot of information out there and you need it.
Yeah, it's something that we talk about so much here. I think what's important about that is to find the right fit. There are lots of different ways of learning, lots of different styles that you can learn. You know, there's online webinars. Obviously, here at Bravo, we're not the cheapest option. Absolutely not. We never do discounts. We offer what we offer because we know it works, but that might not be the right fit for you. And we know that within 3 seconds of chatting to people. And we will always pass somebody on to other ways of learning, other coaches, other organizations. We don't just say, no, it's not really about that. It's more about, are we going to work well together? Can we see something in you? Are you going to fit with the style of delivery? Because we're quite black and white, I would say. And I think what you say is really true. There are lots of different ways to learn. The other thing I think is really important is it is a craft. And it's not cheap, right? It's not cheap. You can't learn voice acting for 50 quid. It's just, I don't know why there's this expectation that, drama school a year is 10 grand a year. So I think in response to what you said, it's maybe just make a plan, maybe work out the bits that are expensive and how you can do that, and then supplement that with maybe free talks, etc., etc. So much of what you're saying really resonates, thank goodness, with our approach. So great to hear it from you. How does Excellent support the development and progression of the artists they represent?
So there's three of us on the team currently. It's me, my assistant Antoinette, and my managing director Bonnie. We work regularly together to kind of update pages of websites and things like that, and everyone's profiles and reels and things. And if we can hear something really obvious, then we'll just get in touch, or if someone's not put us on their spotlight yet, things like that. Our ear is always to the ground with updating information and content. And we're very collaborative with our talent as well. We're always talking to the talent, making sure that everyone's happy. And if anybody asks us a question, we don't just ignore it. We want to make sure that everyone feels supported in whatever way they need to be, whether it's just checking in to say hello kind of thing. I'm still here. Yeah.
Did you just say your sister,
Assistant.
Antoinette? I suddenly thought, hang on, I've known you for ages. And
we are really similar, though, which is quite
assistant.
funny. We always joke about how similar we are. But no, she's my assistant. As much as I would love that, she's my assistant.
I think my mind was playing tricks. I can actually personally vouch for Excellent. I would say that everybody gets their knickers in a twist about getting an agent. And all I can say is it takes time to find the right one. It really does. And I've got lots of different agents in various parts of the world because it's territorial. And it took a while to connect with Natalie, but absolutely perfect for me and the boys. I couldn't recommend you enough. So there you go. Speaking about clients, talk a lot about this because, there is a tendency for us to love our own voices and to view ourselves as the most important things in the world. But what people tend to forget is that you're voicing for the clients. And actually, if we could be more interested in them, we'd probably have a better working relationship with them. How do you manage the expectations of clients when it comes to choosing the right VO? Do they really trust you, or do you just kind of give them a list and off they go and come back and tell you who they've chosen? Do they ask for your guidance?
I think there's a bit of both in there. I think some producers and clients have been in the industry for donkey's years and know exactly what they want. So they give us a brief, we reply to it with the list, and they're bish, bash, bosh, they make a selection. But there have been times when maybe we've got something slightly different. Maybe if you wouldn't mind just advising us on what might be the right fit. I think there's just a bit of a mixture with that kind of thing. I think they're putting their trust in us to begin with anyway. So that's got to have come from somewhere. But yeah, it's not been a difficult thing to navigate because people they've always been really receptive. I've never really had any bad feedback from that kind of thing anyway.
Your job sounds like a walk in the park. I know it isn't.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not always, but in general, I think when you know, me becoming an agent was just one of those situations where it's just for me. This is for me.
Yeah, I feel that way. Definitely feel that way.
Yes, that's why it's been good with castings and working with clients, is that you just know confidence is key at the end of the day. You know what you're talking about, and they're going to go, okay, great, thank you.
Exactly that. I think you're right. Let's bring in the big T word, technology. We won't spend ages on it, but quite rightly, the rise of AI and emerging technologies, there's a lot of talk about it at the moment, especially in gaming where devs are using AI technology a little bit more. What are your thoughts on that? And how can we future-proof ourselves as VOs? That's really what I want to ask you.
My thoughts are, I'm quite a positive birdie. I like to look for the light in things. So while there's been a lot of noise and a lot of scary noise coming from the whole subject of tech and AI taking over the world, I think it's really important to now, it's not going to go away. Something's going to happen. It is happening in parts of our industry already. So how can we protect ourselves, but also how can we potentially benefit from it in the future? I just think the first step is to be prepared for any crazy contractual things happening, because obviously we've done all these jobs for so many years and then all of a sudden they're now available to the world to be taken. So I think that just be wary of that going forward, and maybe that I know that there's an AI rider out there for voice artists and actors, and use those resources, because they are going to help you when you're booking new jobs from now on. They're going to help you protect yourself. If you need to speak to someone, a legal team about it, about creating something that's going to protect you, do it, because those kind of things are going to protect you going forward. If you can try and see these aspects as opportunities, then I think everyone working together and understanding it together is ultimately going to benefit the industry massively. I'm not saying undercut yourself. I'm not saying undersell yourself, because I'm hugely against that. And ultimately, if someone wants to use your voice, then you need to be compensated. So as long as you're having the right conversations with these people who want to use your voice and you're negotiating correctly, then I don't see why not.
It's interesting because you pick up on so many things that we talk about here. I think having a template rider is a great thing, but honestly, in my experience across all sectors, agencies, startups, blah, 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 I question whether every talent is able to utilize that rider in the correct way and to negotiate. And that brings me back to the point of that is why it is a great thing to have a reputable agent. So I think the role of agents is essential in that, actually. I'm not sure how easy it is for an individual who hasn't had that commercial experience to kind of negotiate on that rider. However, I'm sure lots of people will disagree with me. So lots to talk about there. And of course, those are things that we talk about a lot here at Brava. Okay, we'll move away from that. Thank you for that. We're going to wrap it up really soon because I know you're extremely busy. But in terms of a successful long-term career in VO, what do you think are the key attributes of that? What is going to mark out somebody who's going to have that long-term career from now as a voice actor? What should they be good at? What should they have under their belt? What skills should they have, etc.?
I think personal skill, be open to change, is a massive skill to have just personally, because it changes all the time, I think. And be open to investment, like we were saying earlier, have a plan. Change will probably come at a cost. So yeah, I just think that be willing to learn all the time. Like it never stops. You never learn so much and then become the best voiceover artist in the world, because there's always new things happening that you may have missed out on. So I think be available. Like, lots of people don't like social media, but it is a resource for lots of information. So whether you are a lurker or a non-lurker, just be willing to just kind of spend some time on there for the more professional stuff, not the rubbish.
Yeah, I think for us here at Brava, it's always about one-to-one conversations and people knowing that they can pick up the phone and we can have a conversation behind the scenes where everybody trusts each other. And I always say, it doesn't matter how silly you think a question is, ask it, because I guarantee everybody else will be thinking the same thing, honestly. So you can call me up, you can ask me, and if I don't know, I'll ask Natalie.
It's so true. But even that, the same with me as an agent. We work from home, or we just work together for so long, and then I eventually bump into another agent and you have a conversation with them and they start saying things that are already in your brain, and you're like, oh my goodness, you kind of feel like that's just you, and you're like, oh no, that makes me feel, it's not great that we're feeling like that, but it makes me feel better that I'm not the only one. And that's why I said it's really important to connect with your peers, because at the end of the day, they're all going to be going through it with you. And voiceover is just you. You're not in a cast. You're not in a team.
Much as we love to be. I mean, can you imagine every time someone says, "Oh, I really want to do radio drama," I'm like, "Oh, wouldn't we all?" That's the dream, to be able to act in front of somebody. But like I say, we love it all. Listen, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always so lovely to chat to you, and I really hope you come back again soon and chat to us again.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to High Notes, a podcast on the art and business of voice.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of High Notes. Check out the episode description below for more information. And to find out more about our work at Brava and get info and tips, subscribe to our newsletter. The link is also below. Join us next time for more insights into the world of voice.